Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the GC360 podcast, located right here at the Garden City, New York Media Studio. And on this podcast, we talk to some of the most interesting people in the community. And today I am very thrilled to introduce to you my two boss women here with me. We all have our blazer energy today. We've got Rosa Prestano and Kean. They both work for ADP. And I'm very, very excited to have you ladies here this morning.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. Thank you so much. It's a great way to start the day. So you both work for ADP, and we're definitely going to get into both of your different roles that you have. But first, please, both of you take a few minutes just to tell me a little bit about yourselves and how you got to where you are today. So Rosa, we'll start with you.
Sure. So I started in ADP back in 2016, right out of college.
Okay.
I had no idea I wanted to be in sales. I was doing sports management for my degree. That
is a big jump.
Yeah,
I didn't even know.
So different. And I got a LinkedIn message from a recruiter on ADP, and I took the interview, and it went really well. And right from college, I started ADP, and now we're 5 years down. Well, so 2016 I started. I was there for 4 years doing small business owner's role. And then when 2020 hit, I like to call it like a 2-year hiatus. So I left the business, but I stayed in the industry. I was doing insurance.
Okay.
I found that it wasn't really for me, but I was doing similar role, like where I was working with a lot of center of influences.
Yeah.
But then I decided that ADP was more home for me, so I kept in contact, kept on good terms, and now I'm in major account division, which is larger to mid-market businesses. So I'm really happy to be back at ADP. I keep saying, like, I came back in September, and I just keep saying how grateful I am and how much it feels good to be home.
Yeah, that is so great. I'm glad that you kept in contact with them, so you're able to do that.
Yes.
And how did you get involved?
So after I graduated college, I traveled around Europe for a few months, and then I got back and I got a LinkedIn message saying from a recruiter, and I never even heard of ADP before. Mm-hmm. I went through the interview process. I really liked the vibe, and then I was like, what's payroll though? I still didn't know what payroll even was. And then I got hired, and then I just been loving it ever since.
Wow, that's so exciting. How was Europe?
It was awesome. So I went to Greece and Italy with my friend, and it was just an amazing time. And I was because I wanted a little break before I went to the corporate world. But I'm glad I definitely did that, but I love ADP.
Yeah, awesome. Well, that's so great. So now I think it will be interesting for our viewers and for myself to know a little bit about your different roles.
Yeah.
So you work in the major district
major
accounts,
yes,
right?
Yes.
So what's the difference between that and what Ona does with the small business accounts?
Yeah, so I would say when you get to a certain space as an employer, right? Once you hit a threshold of 50 employees or more, you get into a space for ACA compliance, which is the Affordable Care Act.
Okay.
So a lot more compliance and technology goes into a process when it comes to larger organizations. There's just so much more that goes into it. Whereas small business, right, it's very transactional. Ona can work with businesses that have one employee, right? So,
wow.
Yeah. So, and I would say the platforms that we use are both phenomenal, but very different needs, right? When it comes to workforce now, it's really it's really a workforce of a lot of companies in the country, and it really is an open architecture. You can kind of design it based on the needs of each business. So it's not just for one industry. We make it very industry specific.
Okay, so it's kind of like customizable
to your industry, correct?
Wow.
Yeah.
Neat.
Yep.
Okay.
And then I don't know if you want to speak to small business a little.
Yeah, so I work with anyone under 50 employees. It could be as little as one employee. Everyone's like, how many employees do I need for payroll? I'm like, just one person. But it's a lot an easier transaction, because I can meet someone and say, hey, do you want to switch over your payroll? And the next day we can run their payroll, compared to
wow.
Rosa, where your process could be a lot longer. And also talking to decision makers a little bit easier for me, just because I could walk in and the owner's there a lot of the time. So Rosa has to meet the HR person. But yeah, so that's the big difference.
Yeah, that's a big process.
Wow. Okay, I guess it makes sense to split it up that way, because it would be a different process if we have hundreds and hundreds versus 10.
Yeah.
But wow, I never even thought of it like that.
Yeah,
Sweet.
the needs in general are just very different, right? Like,
for sure.
You know, the small businesses, they just want sometimes just basic payroll, right? I mean, even the large business sometimes just want basic payroll, and they have their different, you know, softwares with different companies, right? And we try to obviously bring that all into ADP if we can, but sometimes if it's as basic as that, it can be. You know, and then we have anything from basic payroll to our, you know, and I can tell you a little bit more about what ADP does, but there's so many different products and divisions within ADP that help a small business to a national, global account.
Okay, awesome. I definitely want to get into that. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but we will be right back after these messages.
My father never stops moving, but after he had a brain aneurysm, he had a difficult time getting back to his normal routine. That's when I called Alliance Services. They paired him with Rosa. She developed a custom home care plan that helped him with his recovery.
Rosa helped me gain my independence back.
Alliance Services, helping older adults continue to live well and independent.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the GC360 podcast. If you're just tuning in, I am here with two awesome ladies who work for ADP. We've got Rosa Prestano and Kean. And we've been talking a little bit about their different roles, but Rosa, you mentioned before the break that something I really want to dig into.
Yeah.
A little bit more about what ADP does and the different products and the softwares. I'm sure it can get really layered.
Yes.
So can you kind of walk us through a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So I feel like, and Ona can attest to this, anytime we call somebody like, hey, this is Rosa from ADP, sometimes they'll say, oh, I already have security. They'll think we'll be talking like ADT, right?
Yeah.
Oh. So we either get that or they're like, I'm good with payroll, right?
Yeah.
Like it's always just payroll. But ADP is so much more than that, right? So we're essentially a human capital management software company. You know, anything from compliance, time clocks, payroll, a software for HR directors, right? And then we have a whole system where you can outsource your HR business partners, or our largest division, which is our PEO, which is a professional employer organization. So we have so many, essentially a bunch of human capital management products designed for employers of all sizes across the country, across the globe.
Wow.
So it really is more than just payroll.
Yeah.
And as far as products go, I mean, we have so many
I know,
products,
we have like retirement,
right?
like insurance, so it's just not only payroll.
Right.
Oh,
And that's a lot
wow.
of like misconception everyone has of ADP.
That's all it is, right? It's a payroll. But you know, I would say within the past 7 to 8 years, so before I started at ADP, like we really started switching gears to focusing on what's important, right? Like we want to focus on the modernization, following what the needs of the clients are, and that's really the user experience. And the past 2-3 years, our retention's like at an all-time high. I think it's at like 91 or like anywhere.
That's really good.
91%. And that's because we're getting the feedback that the experience for the user is a lot easier, right? And that's from our like Workforce Now technology, our Run platform, which is for small business, very easy, like easier use, right?
You can even run payroll from your Apple Watch now. That's like our newest.
Really?
That's our newest thing. Yeah,
That's
there's like
so
an
cool.
app and like an Apple Watch you can go on.
Yeah. That's so
it
great.
is really cool.
I was gonna ask, why do you think that retention has stayed so high? Because of the technology? Do you think it's also because of you giving a good customer experience, like you're basically kind of our customer experience as well?
For sure.
You know?
I think from the small business side, it is definitely that, like because Ona's spending so much time with the business owner.
Yeah.
When you get to my size and scale, like yes, we are going through that entire process, but the commitment to the implementation, because these processes can take on a minimum of 5 to 6 weeks, all the way to like a year. So like you're spending a lot of time with that implementation team. So it's so important that the organization and ADP as a whole work as a team. Otherwise, you know, things can go wrong, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, really, that's kind of like how I feel, right? Like,
It definitely is, especially like on the small business side. Like I build relationships like with the business owners.
Sure.
So if they ever need anything, like I'm the person they call.
Right.
So I'm more of like their one point of contact.
Yeah.
Where it can be similar like that way with a major account, but you know, we have like a dedicated client service team, we have a dedicated implementation team for all units and segments of ADP.
Okay.
But it's so broad.
Yeah.
There's so much that goes into
Definitely.
it.
So how do you go about getting accounts? Now, probably you getting accounts versus Ona, you getting accounts, it's, I'm sure, a bit of a different process because you're dealing with bigger corporations, big fish, right? And then you kind of are a little bit more one-on-one with like a business owner. So do you guys, are you two responsible for getting your accounts? Do you have someone who sends over referrals? How's that go for you?
Do you want to start?
Yeah, I could start. So I work with brokers and accountants, so that's where I get a lot of my business from. So basically, like, I will go to brokers and then basically pitch them ADP of how it could be a resource for their clients and how we can help them, like, with the payroll costs and just like the better service and technology. So I do get referrals from brokers and accountants, but then I also do like look for business by like cold calling, going like door to door, networking events. And now that I signed the contract with the chambers, hopefully I'm gonna get referrals from there as well.
I'm sure you will. We'll definitely talk about the chambers too.
Similar to Ona, right? They have specific roles for a reason in ADP. When I first started, I was a CPA centric as well. So I've been working with CPAs for, between my two jobs, 6 years. And I would say over 35 years ago, or maybe 30 years ago, ADP started forming a relationship with accountants. We were the first payroll company, to start forming a center of influence relationship with accountants, because they are trusted advisors, right? So they are the go-to for small business, large business, right? You name it. So we've decided to create this whole like channel, basically, where we have CPAs that we work with all over the country, and these CPAs work with, you know, competitors too, you know. But as far as ADP goes, we provide them tools and resources, right? We work with them a couple different ways. They figure out which way works best for them, and then that's how we form a relationship, right? And it's worked really well, you know. They trust us. They know we're going to take care of their clients, and it really is just a all-around better way to get a referral, right? Like if you know, we walked in here a couple weeks ago with John, right, the president of the chambers. And it was warm, right? It wasn't like, who are these people walking in, like talking about
strangers walking.
It's just so much different when somebody comes in and says, oh, this is my ADP rep, like, she's great, you know, she's taking care of ABC clients of mine, like, have a conversation with her. And then if it flows, right? That's like the way it should be. I think that's how good business is done.
I agree.
And the same thing with the broker channel, right? Like, that's something that we've started maybe 5 years ago. From the major account side, and now it's in the small business side the past 2-3 years. Because brokers are also very good centers of influences for their clients. And we work very well with them too.
Great.
We also have, same thing for me, like, it's called like a hunter role, right? Like, we have to go knock on doors, call, and kind of hit the pavement like back in the day. And that works sometimes too, right? Like, sometimes you're in the right place at the right time, and that you can't do that from a phone all the time, right? Like, being in the right place at the right time, like that personal touch is, I'm like so glad the pandemic is like, you know, like we're out in public again, because it really is so different.
Definitely is. So is that why you decided to get involved with the chambers, is to kind of have more opportunities to network and to get business?
Yeah, of course, and definitely to be like a resource for them as well. Just because like we do have like great promotions going on. Like right now, ADP is doing like 5 months free for payroll for anyone that has 5 and over employees, and then we're also able to give them like a 20% discount coming from the chambers, since we are just like their preferred vendor.
Great.
And for our major account standpoint, it's 12 months free over 3 years. So if they come from a competitor. So there's so many good promotions right now for ADP. ADP literally invests nearly $1 billion annually in our systems technology and development. So like, we are constantly innovating and trying to, again, find out what the needs of the business are and making it more adaptable for them, right? And I think that's so important, right? Like, you can't sell something that's not important to somebody, right? You know, like, it's got to work, it's got to be user friendly, and it's, at the end of the day, like, you have to trust the person you're working with, and I think that's like where we come in, right?
Definitely.
Like, the human touch is such a big thing.
Yeah, it really is. And what you were saying too, technology is rapidly advancing. I feel like every month things are
Something
just
new
growing.
comes out.
So it's so important for you at doing what you do to be on top of that and going with changing with the times, you know?
Yeah, of course.
So I'm sure that gives you a leg up too.
Yeah, for sure.
So I have another question too for both of you. Ona, I want to start with you. What do you like about working for ADP? Like, what is, you both seem very passionate and happy about your careers, which is amazing. So I want to know maybe something that we might not think of. Why do you like doing it? Or what's exciting to you?
I would definitely say the culture of the company is like amazing. Like I have so many friends that I work with now that like I just met through work. It's just like such a great company, like especially like all like the management's like super like uplifting and like just helps you like coach to get to your goals. So that's like something that I was looking for. Like graduating college, I was like, I really want like a good company that's gonna support me. So ADP has been nothing but that. That's
so great. And who you work with is a huge part of enjoying your career and your life in general, right?
Yeah.
So that's so great. And Rosa, I kind of have a little bit of a different question. Since you've done two different roles, you've done owner's role and you have the role you have now.
Yeah.
What is there one that you prefer, or is one more stressful? How can you compare the two?
I think they're completely different roles. I mean, I'm really glad that I came from small business to here because I have that background now.
Yeah.
But from, I will say this. So small business is very transactional, right? Like she can turn around a deal in a day if somebody needs payroll tomorrow, right? My situation's not like that. It is definitely a longer process. So I feel like, to answer your question, I had to learn more patience, right?
Okay, yes.
And I think when I left ADP to come back, like that was kind of like the blessing in disguise, right? Like I did insurance and like there's underwriting processes, it takes time, right? Like I really believe that everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
So I think that like prepared me for this role where it was going to be very process oriented, which means, right, like you have an initial phone call, right? Then you're going to have an analysis with them after that. And then right after that, like a couple days later or a week later, you're going to have a demonstration of the technology. And then lastly, you'll have a proposal. So like it's like a 4-step process sometimes, and that like you want to get all the decision makers in the room and make sure that they fully understand what they're buying into. So I think I really love this aspect of it because, and I also think like when I started out of college, I loved small business. Like it was such a fun environment. Like, and the culture in major accounts is the same. Like we're all like, this is my small business partner. Like we're all together, Like I like started back in September. Like we've been working together for only a couple months now, and I'm like, we're together all the time. You know? So like, it really is who you work with as your team. Like if I came back and like, I didn't enjoy my manager or whatever, like it could have been a different story. Definitely. But like I knew coming back to ADP, like we invest into our employees and we invest into our leadership, and that makes all the difference. So I'm just happy to be back in general. I'm very happy with my current role. Yes.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad you both are. What kind of things do they do at ADP to keep that culture great? Do you guys do mixers or anything? Like, do they have like icebreaker things that they do? I know that some places kind of put that to the wayside and they're just all about work. No. But it's nice to hear that they really care about you.
Yeah,
we work hard.
We definitely have like a bunch of like outings and stuff. And trying to think like in the fall, I know they did like a paddle boat. Yeah. I don't know what's coming up we have like a kickoff for our new year. Yeah. There's usually like a fun little party, so it's a bunch of like fun things to do.
I remember when I was in SBS, we did like Belmont Steaks as a kickoff. Ooh. We did like Salt Shack out on the East End. We do so many different events. I think my team actually like we have a team of 7 of us. We're doing like the paddle pub next week at a Patchogue. So like you know what I mean. So there's like little events as like a team, and then every year there's a president's club. So if it's like the top 3% of the company gets to go. So we're always like obviously like this is going to be like going into next year. I really feel like this will be our years.
Yeah, it's our club year next year. That's our goal.
So we have a lot of things going on, and I think this year's club, is in Dublin, Ireland.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's in August. So, but our fiscal goes from June to June. So there's incentive, and then we have like sprint trips like in like the fall and like sometimes the spring.
Yeah, I went to Newport, I believe it was last spring for like
that
our
was the spring?
Yeah, for
Good
like our
job.
Pacesetters
That's
trip.
awesome.
So like it was super cool to see like
Yeah.
everyone from like different parts, like different regions coming in like celebrate your success. So
Yes.
I think it was really cool like seeing like especially like the higher ups of the company as well.
Yeah.
In 2017, I went to Bahamas. Like it was,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
Bahamar. It was so like. It was
I'm going
so
to the
fun.
Bahamas in July.
Really?
Oh, it's so
I've
fun.
never
Is that your
been.
first? Oh my
Yeah.
god, you're gonna love it.
I was in
yeah.
Bahamas
It's-
twice.
What's the best thing about it?
Just the beach.
Just,
The beach. The
The
beach.
people too, like it's so like laid back. You know what I mean? Like where are you staying?
I'm doing a cruise actually, so that's one of the stops. Yeah.
I've never been on a cruise.
I'm very
So
excited.
you tell me how that.
What
goes.
cruise?
will.
What cruise line are you going
It's
on?
MTP. I think it's one that I had never heard of.
Yeah,
before
I was like, I don't think I've
recently.
ever heard of that one either.
Yeah, I'm very, very excited about that.
Oh,
that's
But
so
I
fun.
think that's celebrating your success is so important in any kind of job, right?
Yeah,
So I love that you all do that. I love that you work hard and play hard.
Yeah.
That's the best way to be. And tell me a little bit more too about the chamber partnership.
Yeah.
That's recent, right?
Yeah, so me and Frank have actually met probably in like July, and I pitched them the idea of just like having like the chambers under like a contract with ADP. So this way, if a business comes over from either a competitor or just like a new business comes from like a chamber, ADP is able to pay them $1,000 per business.
Ooh.
So we're also giving back to like the community as well, like with the chamber. So they're free to do whatever they want with that money. They can do it to charity, give it out to the members, invest into small businesses. So it's a really great opportunity for them just to have extra revenue share coming in.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You
Yeah.
hear that, everyone?
Yeah.
That's a
Send
great.
referrals our way.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I have had a great time. You taught me a lot that I did not even really know about
Yeah.
ADP. I love to hear about good company culture. It's so important.
Yep.
And that you ladies are so successful. So yeah, it's so wonderful to hear.
Thank you.
And I will see you at the Garden City Connect later.
I know, I'm so
Networking
excited.
is very important. So thank you both so much for being on the show. I really, really enjoyed having you. And
Thanks for having us.
definitely.
Thanks for having
And
us.
let the audience know the best way to get in contact with you if they are needing any of the services that you provide.
Okay, so I'll give you my email address. It's rosa.prestano@adp.com. And then my Instagram is @ro Prestano.
Great.
Okay. And then my email is ona.kean, so ona.kean @adp.com. And then my Instagram is just Ona Kean, but with 2 N's.
Cool. And is there a website for ADP?
There is, but it's more, so that there are resources and like articles on there. But if you want to get in touch with us directly, like just
Email's the
message
best
us,
way.
Yeah,
because-
email is the best way, and especially if you wanted to go through the chamber program, it has to either go through one of us.
Okay.
So you can't just call in to the 1-800 number to get signed up. It would have to go through one of us.
Good to know. Good
Yeah,
to know.
for sure.
So, everyone, if you need any of these services, you know who your girls are here to get a hold of. And thank you again for joining us on this episode of the GC360 podcast. This episode was sponsored by Alliance Services. I'm Erica Becker, and we will see you next time.